Good afternoon. My name is Jason McCauley. I'm the president of the Greater Hartford African American Alliance, and I thank you for taking time out to join us for our virtual press event. The reason for this press event is to bring attention to the hiring practices within the Hartford Police Department. And so our organization has voted to send out a letter addressing that. And I am here to read the letter into the record. And it is the full letter is below in the comments, but in our spirit of transparency, I want to read the letter as I have it here, and that is being hand delivered to the mayor's office. To the Honorable Luke Bronin. Dear Mayor Bronin, the Greater Hartford African American Alliance calls for the immediate compliance to state statute and federal laws in regard to hiring practices of Jason Thody, our Chief Law Enforcement Officer. Our police chief and every other elected and appointed employee in the city of Hartford took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Jason Thody took a specific oath under General Order 1.01. that specifically references a number of policies, practices, and procedures that he has failed to comply with during his tenure. Jason Thody, the current chief of the Hartford Police Department, has refused to comply with state and federal law. Chief Thody has indicated that he has no intention of complying with state and federal discrimination laws. In support of his position, he has audaciously stated on the record at a joint conference with the Greater Hartford NAACP and the Greater Hartford African American Alliance that the nearly 50-year-old federal consent decree, Cintron versus Vaughn, is older than he is and should be sunsetted. As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for the City of Hartford, it is his responsibility and obligation to uphold and enforce state and federal law. Chief Thody's refusal to comply with state statute and federal law relative to non-discrimination practices exposes the City of Hartford to lawsuits and breeds distrust from the community and other stakeholders. The police chief does not get to choose what laws he complies with. Chief Thody heads up an organization that is responsible for enforcing the law. For him to take a position where he picks and chooses the laws that he supports is unacceptable. In support of his intention not to comply with civil rights and non-discrimination laws in Connecticut, Chief Thody has dismantled and disregarded promotional lists and consciously skipped over Latinos, blacks, women, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. Chief Thody has refused to promote or appoint almost anyone that is not white or male under his administration. This bigoted, sexist, and xenophobic approach to policing has resulted in a hostile work environment and low morale within the Hartford Police Department. Chief Thody passed over a member of the LGBTQ+ community who was the highest scoring woman on the sergeant's examination. She was sexually harassed by a supervisor a year before, who was a member of the Democratic Town Committee and strongly supported your campaign and re-election. She was retaliated against, she was retaliatorily disciplined by Chief Thody. He avoided promoting her by abusing the internal disciplinary process. The Internal Affairs Unit is weaponized to prevent protected class members from promotions. The Hartford Police Department is plagued with low morale and fractured relationships, An unprecedented amount of officers have left the department, and most recently, the Hartford Police Union brought forth a no confidence vote in Chief Thody. Officers have left the department and joined police departments from surrounding towns, where they have an opportunity for promotions and where they do not have to work under a vindictive culture of discrimination, oppression, retaliation, collusion, and corruption. Chief Thody has established a pattern and practice of noncompliance with state and federal anti-discrimination laws. Hartford Police Department leadership continues to discriminate. Hartford Police Department leadership continues to disregard the concerns of the black community. There is a gross lack of transparency and integrity on the part of the leadership of the Hartford Police Department. And the community also has no confidence in the police chief. In addition to his public actions that are consistent with his statements that he will not comply with the law that he considers old and arcane and not in the best interest of the Hartford Police Department, Jason Thody has a long public disciplinary history. He has gotten into barroom brawls. He has been charged with making false statements during his internal affairs interview. He left the scene of an accident where there was thousands of dollars in property damage to take home a vehicle that he was responsible for. He was followed for miles by someone who continuously called 911 to report his erratic driving, and he was less than truthful about the accident that took place on that same day. Thody left the scene of the accident and said that he called the state police to report the accident where he hit a guardrail. And in fact, phone records demonstrate that he did not call the state police at all. This same chief was disciplined by you, Mayor Bronin, and he was required to pay for damages to his city vehicle. We are aware that there will be appointments and promotions in the very near future, and we demand that the city come into compliance with federal consent decree and state law, and that all the upcoming promotions be fulfilled with candidates who reflect our majority-minority community, immediately following the certification of the lieutenants and captains list. Chief Thody is currently in violation of state statute, the Connecticut General Statute 7-291A, which states that the department should reflect the demographics of the people that it serves. He is in violation of a federal consent decree that is almost 50 years old, which was established for the purpose of addressing the disparities in hiring and promotions in the Hartford Police Department. It is unacceptable to have a police chief that blatantly ignores state statutes and federal laws while he heads up the very department that places blacks and minority citizens at risk of losing their freedom or rights under the law. Protected classes are just that, classes of individuals who have special protections under the law because of past practices of disparities and discriminatory treatment. The city of Hartford is home to many protected class members, and as such should not have a police chief that refuses to comply with state and federal laws relative to protected classes the very person who is in a position of enforcing the law against protected class members is also the very person who has no regard for the law, refused to comply with state and federal laws, while he received preferential treatment when it came to his being appointed to chief of the Hartford Police Department. This failure to comply with state statutes and a federal consent decree, Cintron versus Vaughn, is unacceptable. Respectfully, J. Stan McCauley, President of the Greater Hartford African American Alliance. This letter is CC'd Police Chief Jason Thody, the Hartford Court of Common Counsel, and the Director of Equity and Opportunity, Karen Taylor. As always, if you have any questions, you may feel free to contact me at the number on the screen, or you may email me at the email address associated. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule, and have a fabulous and wonderful rest of your day.